Welcome back, guys. Today we are going to look at how the colonists and the American colonies were able to overcome the advantages that Great Britain had when it came to the American Revolution. So we're going to look at the American strengths and the direct correlation to the British weaknesses. So today is how did the colonies overcome the British advantages? And we're going to look at six things in particular, starting with number one, which will be motivation. Number one is motivation. And again, I'm going to take my notes in different colors so that I can easily identify what is what. But these are your soldiers. And why are they fighting? Why? What is their motivation? Well, I'm going to do the colonies in red and the uh, British in blue. The colonies are fighting for their way of life, their property, their future, their political power, their rights. So, life, rights, property. They're fighting for how they want to live, what they have access to. Their way of life. All right, they're fighting for their life and their way of life. Meanwhile, the British, them, they're fighting strictly for money and pay. They know that their way of life is not in danger. Even if they lose this war, their way of life back home in Great Britain is not going to change. So the motivations are already on the colonist side. They have more to fight for, more of a reason to be invested in this war. The second one we're going to look at, popular support. This is the support of the people. Much like at a football game, when you got people cheering. Popular support. How did the regular people view this war, this fight, this battle? And so many of your American colonists supported the war. They wanted this to happen. They rallied. They supported it. They rallied for it. And they recruited. They were all for it. They cheered for it. And they got people to join the army. one way or the other. So they supported going to war. They rallied. They cheered along. They essentially were all about it. They were all in on this revolution. The British were not ready. They were not ready. They were woefully unprepared for an uprising. And so the people in Great Britain really were just like, get it over with. And they meant this one way or the other. They didn't care if Great Britain won or lost. The people in Great Britain just wanted the war over and done with. So the next thing we're going to look at is leadership. And this essentially comes down to who was in charge. King George versus George Washington. George versus George. And the American generals were willing to learn. The American generals went into every battle understanding that if they made a mistake, it was going to be okay. And Washington is actually inspired by the patriotism. So Washington sees these people willing to continue fighting. The patriotism, Washington was able to instill confidence. The people believed that Washington was getting better as the war went along. And so this patriotism and this sense of belonging kind of motivates the colonies and Washington. Meanwhile, um, the British are overconfident. The British generals are overconfident, and they just have a "we got this" attitude. And they went into every battle with this mindset. And so, even if they lost, they weren't willing to learn from that loss and figure out, why did we lose this battle? And how can we make sure that it doesn't happen again? So, their overconfidence in this belief that we got this no matter what kind of just keeps them from learning, and they end up making the same mistakes. That brings us to number 4. Number 4 are foreign allies. Countries that were not directly involved in this war initially. All right, so foreign allies. For the colonies, you have support from France. France and Spain send money and supplies. So France and Spain are sending money and ammo, weapons, things that you need to fight this war, as well as more people. They're sending soldiers. Meanwhile, the British have no allies. No allies at all. No one that will get involved and help even out the numbers or give them an advantage. Nothing like that. They have no one. And so more European countries start to get involved and turning against Great Britain, and it kind of forced Great Britain to fight in multiple places, which forces them to split up their army, which got rid of the number one advantage that they had was people and soldiers. And so as more countries like Spain and France get involved, the more Europe, or not Europe, the more Britain has to split up their army because they have no allies to fight these foreign allies that the Americans and the colonies have. Number 5, communication and supplies. Communication and supplies. The war is being fought in the Americas. So the colonies are close to home. They're close to home. They're right there. They're nearby. And so they made it to where the British could not live off the land. And whether that was by setting fields on fire so that they couldn't get food, whatever they had to do. But because they were here in the Americas, they're at home. Communication was simple. Communication was easy. Communication was easy and simple. So they're burning the fields so that the British can't get food off of their crops. They're able to communicate. They don't have to go that far to talk to one another. They are very close. Their proximity is right there next to each other. Meanwhile, the British, orders could take months. Orders would take months to get there because it had to come all the way across the Atlantic Ocean. Same with food and supplies. Same with food and supplies because you have the war here. The Atlantic Ocean. This is 3,000 miles. And then England is over here. Great Britain. So all communication and supplies took months and 3,000 miles to go back and forth. $3,000 miles. So, as you can see, the ability to be right there within close proximity of one another and fighting at home and being able to make it to where the British had to rely on this 3,000 miles, or using this 3,000 mile difference to the colonial advantage, really helps the colonies, again, when it comes to communication and supplies. The last one we're going to look at is troop strength, which when the war first started was a huge advantage for Great Britain. A very large advantage for Great Britain. So number 6 is troop strength. And America had fewer troops. They did. They didn't have as many, but the local militias allowed them to supplement. They were able to fill in. Those local colonies were able to throw their Minutemen into battle. So they had fewer trained troops, but a bunch of militias from the colonies that were willing to go fight, again, because they're fighting for their way of life and their property and their rights. The British, because of having to split their army and not having allies, end up with around less than 100,000 troops. Troops diminished. So as more places to fight kind of emerge, you see troop numbers in the or in Great Britain diminish and get way smaller. And so what you have right here are 6 reasons why what was supposed to be on paper an immediate, simple victory for Great Britain ends up jumping into the colonial favor. And as we start to keep going in this war, you're going to see that these 6 advantages that the colonies now have become very prominent and important. But we're going to stop right here for today. You do have an assignment on Canvas, so reach out to me if you have any questions regarding that assignment. And as always, have a great day.